fortunate to be on the education committee all of those years. I have also taught at the higher ed level, taught at UCA, actually coached debate. In teaching communication, you know, I'm used to theories all the time. We talk about the inoculation theory. We talk about the Pygmalion effect. You know, there's a lot of theories that we teach, and even theories that we might look at in government that will shape public policy. But I did not become aware of critical race theory as such until some parents raised the issues of concern about the Arkansas School for Math and Science in Hot Springs. And they were telling us about an exercise that really was part of an opening exercise for the students to assimilate into that school. If you're not familiar with the Arkansas School for Math and Science, it is now 11th and 12th grade students, but at that time it was just 12th grade students. It's a residential high school for gifted and talented students in Hot Springs. And the activity that was brought to our attention that was very concerning to some parents was an activity called the Privilege Walk. And in the Privilege Walk, they have all of the students start in a straight line, and then a series of statements are read to the students, and they say that if this particular statement that we're going to read to you applies to you, then take one step forward. And so they will read several statements like, do you live in a household where both of your parents are married? Take one step forward. Does your family own their home rather than rent? Take a step forward. Does your family own more than one car? Take a step forward. Does your family, have you experienced at night the sound of gun blasts, gunshots? Take one step backward. After these series of questions are read, then you have a group of students who are far ahead of the other students, some who have maybe gone backwards. And then at that point, the instructor or the facilitator will say, well, those students who are out front are privileged. Now, they're privileged because they have two married parents. They're privileged because their family owns their home. And then points to the other students and says, you're victims. Those of you, you're victims if you're further behind. And so that was the first time I started, and of course we called the University of Arkansas on the carpet about that because they actually run the School for Math and Science, and Dr. Bobbitt met with us and they discontinued the use of the Privilege Walk. But that was the first time I started becoming attuned to looking at this issue of critical race theory. It came full bore last fall. President Trump issued an executive order that critical race theory should not be used either in military or in federal agencies. Senator Tom Cotton also filed a bill. I then filed a bill for us to take up in the last legislative session. I filed two bills. One bill was a bill to ban the teaching of the 1619 Project. The 1619 Project, if you're not familiar with it, is a New York Times journalism piece that tries to say that it is history. And to give you an example of how far it falls short of being accurate history, the author says that the birth date of America is not July 4th, 1776, but instead it is the year 1619 when the first African slaves were brought to this continent. Well, the truth is, even on that fact, that historical fact, it is wrong, because the first African slaves were actually brought to this continent almost 100 years previous to the Florida Peninsula. So right off the bat, it's false history. But then the writer goes further to say, and ever since 1619, America has been built on white oppression, on slavery, on privilege. And every major thing that we look at where we say that America is an exceptional nation is based on white oppression. and goes through this historical perspective of indicting leaders like Washington, Jefferson, Madison, even to the point of being critical of Abraham Lincoln, who I know Joey and I disagree on this one issue. He brought it out the other day, that I thought it was an unfair criticism to say that Abraham Lincoln was a white supremacist, especially since Abraham Lincoln was assassinated because of the Emancipation Proclamation and freeing the slaves. But the point is, I filed that bill, I ran that bill first because I thought that that would be the easier lift. Critical race theory was going to be a little bit more difficult to present to some of our education committee members. So let's go for the easy one, the 1619 project. And I, in a Republican majority legislature, in a committee where 17 of the 20 members are Republican, I could not get 11 votes to pass that bill. And the main argument that came about was to say that I was trying to whitewash history, that I was trying to whitewash and to say that we should not teach black history, which is absolutely not true. And I told some people, I said, you know, for the first time, I've never presented a bill where I have to start off by saying what it does not do. But I did. It does not say that we're not going to teach black history. As a matter of fact, I've said, the first time I said it was to the Democratic Black Caucus. They asked me to come meet with them. I said, listen, we would be committing educational malpractice if we did not teach in the state of Arkansas about the Little Rock Central High crisis in 1957, if we did not teach about the Elaine massacre, if we did not even teach about the contributions of one of my former colleagues, Representative John Walker, who was a civil rights attorney. We should be teaching about those things. What we should not be teaching is this false narrative that men like Washington, Jefferson, Madison were all racist, and that they were all, you know, Jefferson wanted to ban slavery when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. But he could not do it because he had to have, they had decided that all 13 states needed to ratify the Declaration. And that if we didn't all, I think the saying was, if we don't all hang together, we will surely hang separately. And so to get the southern states, they did have to go ahead and not prohibit slavery.